Welcome to the Be Magnetic podcast. I'm your host Tara, energetic strategist, psychic medium, and your guide to a life and business that feels like a full body fuck yes. If you're ready to move beyond success and step into true peace, pleasure, and prosperity, this podcast is for you. I'm here to help you reconnect with your divine feminine energy and elevate your life, business, and finances with ease and confidence. Get ready for unfiltered stories, mindset shifts, and real strategies that will help you to live, love, and lead with your heart. Together, we'll unlock your highest self, access your deepest wisdom, and heal your energetic blocks. So take a moment to settle in, feel the energy shift, and let's dive into the magic that awaits. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to talk about how I got from stuck in the rut and negative thinking back to excited, inspired, and alive. And this episode was inspired by when I was doing a workout a couple weeks ago, and I just reflected on this journey of the last 12 to 14 months and how I am so different than I was back then. And I realized that back then I was so stuck and I was so in the rut. And I remember I was kind of trying to think back to spring last year and how I felt, because I've been feeling so excited recently, just because spring and sunshine and warm weather and all of that. And I don't remember that I at all felt excited last year. And I do believe that that was just because of the headspace that I was in, and just with business also, there's been so much just stuck energy and with life. And we will get more into details in a bit. But yeah, I just wanted to take the time to reflect on this journey that I've been on and give you hopefully some insights and some inspiration on how you can too get out of the rut and back into a place of inspiration and aliveness and just being in love with life if you feel like you are in a rut or something has to change, or you've been finding yourself thinking a bit more negatively than usual. I want to tap into that and give you some guidance. So I'm excited. The first thing that I want to talk about is why sometimes the hardest moments are actually the initiation into our next level. So for me, back in probably October, November 2023, I was very exhausted and very burned out. And I remember I had sat down to plan those couple launches that I had come up for the end of the year. And I was excited partly because I had just created a new offering and it did feel really aligned, but also I felt like I did not have the energy to launch. I felt quite negative. I was doubting myself a lot. I was thinking no one's gonna sign for this. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I just realized I wasn't really in the mood to serve or launch anything at all. And so these launches, they went how they went, not good. And that kind of led me to really falling into a slump where I had a lot of self-doubt and I was really much beating myself up, and I was questioning my business and my existence and what I was doing. And I was not sure if I wanted to continue doing the business because I felt very deprived, and I felt like I had put so much effort into the business and it wasn't really meeting me where I wanted it to meet me. And at the same time, I did feel connected to the vision and I wanted, but I didn't know how, and I felt kind of hopeless a little bit when it came to how I could continue. And then I felt like a slight burst of new, fresh hope and energy when it came to in the new year. But then February and March just were not good at all, and I fell back into this negative thinking cycle and beating myself up, and I felt so genuinely unhappy about my life. I felt like I was literally going on socials and I felt like everyone had a better life than I had, and I was so unhappy because nothing seemed to work in my life and nothing seemed to be good or like I wanted it, and I felt genuinely such a big failure. That was I might be quitting all of that because I cannot continue this way. And that was really for me the moment where I realized it's not working. Like, I'm so fucking out of alignment. I am causing myself so much pain and I am suffering for no reason. And so for me, that was the breaking point. It was kind of like a slow realization. I mean, I had known it deep down inside of me for a while that something had to change and had to shift, and that how I was doing things wasn't working anymore, and that I was in a rut. And I had to get out of this negative thinking and the way I was looking at life, because it wasn't serving me. But it took me quite some while to actually like fully realize it and then commit to making the change. And really having someone channel that to me helped me to then actually be like, okay, like she's right, like my spirit guides, they have, like, I need to listen to them now. So that triggered my transformation, and sometimes and it was like a really hard moment because it was so hard to hear that truth, and I felt so lost after that Akashic record reading. I literally just questioned my entire existence. But the moment I started to accept it, and I started to accept where I was and how I felt and what needed to be done, I felt a big relief. And that was the beginning of the transformation that was then unfolding over the last 14 months and is still to some point unfolding. Which gets me into the next point, why healing isn't just about mindset. It's a full body transformation, how we hold and process energy a lot, right? And so for me, it did start with just me quitting on everything. I cancelled all the launches that I had planned for the year. I started showing up less online. I released the pressure I put on myself on all the things, showing up, creating content, like everything that I had planned basically to do, I just cancelled. I just said, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I will get back to this at some point, but when I will, I will know, right? I'm not going to put a deadline to this. So that was kind of my first reaction after I had digested that Akashic record reading and made the decision of, okay, I'm really going to change things. And then I started the healing process. And at the time, I did know it would take some time. I didn't know how long it would take, so I didn't put the pressure on myself to get back to business and to life and to things. I was just so committed to getting happy again, and I was putting on my like journal thing that I would read every day. Like the intention that I had set for my life was I just wanted to be so madly in love with my life again, and be so grateful and happy for what I have in my life and how I'm living and leading, that everything else is a bonus, right? I wasn't setting any income goals or any client goals or anything like that. I wasn't even setting any goals for travels or anything like that. I just wanted, like, my sole intention was I wanted to be happy again and so madly in love with my life that everything else felt like a bonus. That was my sole intention, and I knew that I had to be doing some healing, and I knew that it didn't just involve my mindset. So the first step of healing that I actually did was nervous system, just like deep bodily healing. I had so much negative energy pent up inside of me that it had to release, like deep emotions that were stuck down there that I'd never allowed myself to feel and let come to the surface. And I did allow myself to do that, and it took me quite a few months to just process and work through all the grief and the resentment and the frustration and the heartbrokenness that I had felt from all the tiny things that I had experienced on their journey, especially like 2023, 2020, of 2024, like all that had just been piling up, and I did allow myself to heal that. And because I was focusing on my body and like releasing the toxicity and really accepting how I felt, that was like the first catalyst to actually healing my mindset as well, because I was allowing myself to feel these and accept these emotions and accept how I thought about myself and what I felt about my journey. Then I was also creating the space for new, more positive thoughts to come in. And the shift, honestly, it felt slow at the time. It felt like nothing was moving. Like is that I was probably from March to like July, I was probably in the depths of just healing that, where I was just processing what I had experienced and allowing myself to feel the resentment and the shame and the guilt and the fears and all of that, which I had pushing down, which had unconsciously been influencing me for a long time and taken away my happiness. Which gets me into the next point. Healing isn't just about thinking better, it's about feeling safer in your own body. And that was a big part of me, my journey as well, where I started doing a lot of the embodiment work like EFT and breath work and just taking breaks, slowing down. Like most of the time I was, because I had so much free time because I was cancelling everything, like so many days I was just sitting on the couch and like sitting and staring on the wall basically. I did a lot of that embodiment work and allowed myself to feel, and that then created safety in my body to feel that way. And a lot of these emotions that I was afraid of, like the fear of failure and the guilt and the shame that I had carried towards my journey, like that felt safe to feel because I was allowing myself to feel it, and I was still alive. I was still here breathing, sitting, and that made me then feel safer in my body, made me feel better about who I was and who I was becoming. And that then allowed me, like I said, to think better, because then I was seeing also the incredible things that happened in that time, because not everything in 2023 sucked, but I was starting to celebrate these things as well. And I started to also see the beautiful things that I had in the moment, right? The wonderful brand tour that I did in June, and the incredible vacations that we went on, and just summer, enjoying like the beautiful abundance and home that we have created here in Germany. All that I was allowed to see, and so my focus and my thoughts started shifting because I was started in my body, and I was getting out of this constant flight and fight mode where I was constantly chasing the next goal and like trying to keep up with an image of myself that I had created because I was afraid of people seeing who I really was, and tried to chase a goal that I didn't even wanted to achieve. Like I wasn't fighting anymore for the stuff that I didn't actually want or didn't even need. And letting go of that then also allowed me to actually contemplate what was important for me. What did I actually want my success and my happiness to look like? What did I want my life and my business to look like? Which basically was the next step of this healing phase. Like once I had made peace with the past and let the past go, I could then look towards the present and the future and identify, okay, what is it that I actually want? Because a lot of the things that I thought I wanted, I just wanted because I was compensating from what I thought I failed at in the past. And so it wasn't actually what I wanted. And that made me then realize that success isn't built in like big leaps. It's the tiny daily shifts that add up over time, right? Because I was then creating like a different mindset. I was feeling better by the time, and that already was a win, because remember, like my main intention was to just be happy and feel good. And so I was like, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling good, I'm actually enjoying life. I do feel more successful because I have let go of all the resentments towards my past. And so yeah, now I do feel more successful, and I do feel more abundant, and I do feel happier. And so those were like small wins that I did celebrate. And from that, I then asked myself, okay, what does success actually look like to me? How does the life that I actually want to create look like for me? And as I started creating that vision and started like really following it and like creating these tiny pieces of that life, I also ultimately had these tiny wins, right? I knew that I wanted success that felt sustainable. I didn't care about becoming a millionaire or even making six figures or whatever. Of course, I love money, and if that's on my path, I will take it gratefully. But it's not something that defines my worth or whether I'm successful or not, right? I want to make sure that I have lived my life to the fullest, and I want to make sure that I do have time for myself and my family, and I do want to make sure that I have the money to do the things that I wanted to do, and everything else is a bonus. And so I started creating these things. At the time for me, that looked like, okay, I wanted to have the saving, like the independence fund, to be able to have 1 year of living costs saved up, because I knew that would give me the ultimate freedom of like, I can actually do what the fuck I wanted, and I don't feel like I'm chasing money all the time. And so I consciously built towards that, and every single week, every single moment that account grew, I just felt like it was a tiny step of progress. It was a tiny win. And that in the long run made so much difference, right? And then with my business as well, I just wanted to feel good about showing up again online. I wanted to feel like I was leading from my truth, and I was showing the world who I really was. And so I started taking tiny steps towards showing up in a way that felt really aligned with me. And so these tiny things started adding up. And then also I wanted, like personally, I just wanted to do more of the things that I always said I wanted to do but never did, because I spent all my time and money on just nurturing the business. I started to go to the yoga classes I always wanted to do. I started to go to do the day trips I always wanted to do. I started to get the massages and like take care of my hair and like get new clothes and like all this stuff. And these tiny evidence of progress, they added up and they made me feel so successful, and they grew so much of my confidence, because it wasn't about, like before I was having these big income goals and these big business goals and even these big life goals, and I was never seeing progress towards that, or at least I thought. And so I was getting discouraged and I was having all these negative thoughts about it. But then I started seeing these tiny shifts happen because I set myself tiny goals, and that built on my confidence, and it gave me this feeling of I can actually do things. Like this manifestation stuff works again. Like before I thought it didn't work anymore for me. So the tiny daily shifts that we do, whether it's having just one more positive thought today, or feeling just a slight tiny bit happier, or having done one thing that aligns with your vision today, these are the things that actually make you successful, that actually build back that confidence, and that feeling of making progress is what's actually making you feel happy and appreciated. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether we achieve the business goal this month, the next month, next year, but as long as we feel like we are making progress, it feels like we are getting towards something, we are working for something, and we are being compensated, because we do see the progress. The progress is the compensation. And that is kind of what I saw. I saw progress. I saw progress in my healing. I saw progress in improving my mood. I saw progress in just the things that I always wanted to do. And that progress was enough for me to be like, I'm actually, like, what I'm doing here works, and what I'm doing here is right, and it feels good. Which brings me to the next thing. It's not about, or not just about what you do, it's about who you're becoming. So of course, I had intentions as to what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be at the end of this healing time, or this pivot year. I had a goal of where I wanted to be, right? I knew I wanted to eventually get back to business. I wanted the business to feel more aligned. I wanted to have a more spiritual and feminine approach to business. I wanted to sign clients. I wanted to launch programs again. I had income goals, of course, or monetary goals. I also had personal goals. Of course, I had that, but I wasn't so obsessed about what I was doing, because most of the time, really, I wasn't doing anything specifically for it. I wasn't like, aside of course, for the financial stuff, I did take specific action. I have to be real with you. I did save every single month, or every single time I got paid, I did save a big chunk of that money towards those financial goals that I had. And that was a big reason of why I achieved them, because I took action. But when it came to the business, I didn't do specific things of like I launched something, or I like engaged on socials or whatever. Like, yes, I did post sometimes, but for me, it was way more about who I was becoming. And that was the whole point of this. It wasn't about finding better strategy or figuring out what missing piece I had or getting a better action plan. It wasn't about that. It was about becoming a happier, more successful, more aligned, wealthier version of myself. That was this whole point of this whole pivot year. I just wanted to become the person I knew I was deep down, and I wanted to find back to my magic and my spark. And so that's what I focused on. That's why I spent so much time and the majority of the year last year just healing and shifting who I thought of myself to be, because that identity shift, those energetic shifts, then ultimately also helped me see the progress, right? And that's also why I started to approach business first from the idea of, okay, who did I want to be in business? Who is that next level version of me that is leading that successful business that I'm currently building behind the scenes? It was all about me and who I was being and who I was becoming and how I felt and how I showed up in the process of doing this. And I was always leading with that first. I wasn't asking myself, okay, what else can I do to heal and get to that place that I wanted to be at? No, I did ask myself, like, who do I want to be? Like, how can I be a bit more that person, that version of me that is confident, that loves herself, that loves her life, that loves her business, that feels successful, that feels confident, that feels powerful? Like, how can I become a little bit more that version of myself? And as I was becoming that version more and more, I experienced the evidence and I experienced the shifts within me, which then ultimately made me feel more alive, made me feel more inspired, and made me feel like I was getting somewhere with what I was doing. Which lets me get to the last point. Staying high vibe isn't luck. It's a daily commitment to feeling good. So for me, I did feel pretty good. I did definitely feel it last year that, okay, I do feel like the spell is broken, like this chapter is closed. But I also always say, like, I do feel like I'm kind of still in it. But it's different because last year was really about deep healing and deep personal transformation and like getting my life in order and finding a way of leading in life and business that felt deeply aligned with me. And this year is building upon that. Last year was all about building the mental, the physical, the financial, and the emotional foundation so that I can grow from here. Now is way more about, okay, how can I expand on this new gained confidence, this new gained success, this new gained abundance? How can I build on that, right? How can I be intentional with the hard work that I put in last year in getting to this place of true happiness, inspiration, and aliveness and abundance? How can I intentionally build on that and use that so that when I truly enter the next chapter of my life, which is when I turn 30 and I'm becoming a stepmom, all these big life changes happen, I am best prepared. And I am literally like, once these big manifestations come through that I have defined as I was going through the healing phase of when this life lands that I'm manifesting at the moment, I am ready to receive it. I am that version of me, right? And last year was healing, this year I'm expanding so that when it lands, which can happen any moment, and it will happen bit by bit, slowly, and some parts of it are already landing, and I'm living in the manifestation of a few parts of that already. I am not falling back into the old habits, right? I don't want to have this be just another phase where I went through deep healing and I'm repeating the cycle. No, I have built a different version of myself. I have built a different lifestyle. I've built a different way of doing business, and I want to keep that because I've done this with intention, with foresight as to this is part of the life that I'm currently manifesting. And so I want to walk you through quickly a few things that I'm still doing that do help me to stay committed to this high vibration and make sure that I am not repeating the old patterns. So I do have a very intentional morning routine. Do sit down. It doesn't take long though. I do sit down and read inspirational things. I currently read The Pivot Year from Brianna Wiest, and I do that just to start my day with a good thought in mind. I also started a few weeks ago my 6-minute journal, which is basically you fill out the same couple questions every morning and every night, also designed to help you stay in a good headspace. I do sometimes do still tapping, where I just tap on the vision that I hold or emotions that I want to integrate into my body. I do meditate, and I do tune into my own energy and into my higher self and the energy of my vision every single day to make sure that I am aligned with that energy and with her headspace and with her mindset. And I do keep very much still alive what I've practiced all last year, which is asking myself, how can I become a bit more of who she is? How can I become a bit more the version of me that I am 6 months from now, or even at the end of the year, right? So that is part of my morning routine. I also always say a prayer, which is basically expressing my gratitude for source for everything that I have in my life, and also allowing it to provide me with any guidance that might want to come through when it comes to the unfolding of my day. I also throughout the day make sure that I always, above everything, follow my intuitive guidance and my spiritual guidance. So I don't make decisions anymore based from my ego or what my ego wants or feels like it needs to be doing. No, I'm making decisions from what feels aligned for me and the intuitive and spiritual guidance that I'm getting throughout the day. I do consult with my spiritual mentors every now and then as well and discuss important shifts and how to approach certain things in my life and my business, so that I'm always in alignment with my energy, with my vision, and with just the divine unfolding of my path. I'm also making sure that I do talk to myself in a kind and empowered way. So when I find negative thoughts come up, I do allow myself to feel it. Every time I do have negative emotions, I do allow myself to feel it. I do the healing right there in the moment, or at least in the evening. Then if I can't do it right there, I do the healing so that it doesn't pile up like it did the last time. I really spend time to get into why I feel this way or what's behind this, so that it doesn't, like it did in the past, pile up. I always question my intentions and whether I do this because it comes from a true desire or because it comes from my ego and a fear of how other people will perceive me. I do nurture myself, whether that's in my evening routines or on my Monday self-care times or on Fridays. I do nurture myself and make sure that I tap in regularly. I am, like I said, healing the stuff that is coming up. I'm processing the emotion. I'm making sure that when I get triggered, I'm getting behind the trigger and releasing the emotion that's tied to it so it doesn't pile up, like I said. I do also check in with myself when it comes to why I want to do things, and really ask myself if that is going to add to my energy or rather take away from it. I do make my decisions with the knowing of, is this going to serve my long-term vision first and foremost, or is it making me happy? If it's neither of both, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to decide differently. And I'm really limiting my exposure to negative thoughts. So I've been way less on social media, and I'm very, very conscious and aware of whose content I'm consuming, and if someone's content makes me feel something like intense, negative, I look behind the reason, because it's not them, right? It's something within me that's been triggered. So I'm trying to heal that, so I'm not falling back into these old ways of comparing myself or like making decisions from what triggers me rather than what feels aligned to me. And I am still building on small wins, right? I'm still continuing to take things slow and don't rush, right? At the moment, I'm building this powerful program, and I've shared it with a couple of people, and everyone's asking me, like, when are you going to launch it? Expecting that it's going to be launched in like the next couple months, but it's not. Like, I'm not going to launch this until the end of the year, and I could probably get it done way sooner and make money with it way sooner, but it doesn't feel good. It does feel rushed. It doesn't feel aligned. I don't want to put that pressure on myself, and I want to give myself the time to really become the version of me that can launch this fully, successfully, with all her energy. And so I do really trust myself and stay true to how I want to lead my life and my business. I do get advice for sure, but I always apply discernment and see if it is aligned with who I want to be, who I am, and who I'm becoming, so that I'm not like following someone else's advice without considering it to find myself then in a place that I didn't ever want to be or were supposed to be in. So these are just a couple things that I do to stay out of the rut. I hope that just sharing my story did inspire you in many ways to kind of start the process, transformation of getting out of the rut yourself and out of the negative thinking. A big part really is to kind of sum it back up into maybe 2-3 steps to really make the commitment that this is a shift that you're desiring, and to do the healing work and not to rush it. Like, don't put a timeline on it, just give yourself the time it needs to pivot and to shift and to become the version of you that you're desiring to be. Then the second step is to really focus on the bodily healing before the mindset healing. So heal the energy, the emotions that are living within you, that are stuck within you, that keep you in that rut. And then from there, change your outlook on life. And then as a third step, really get clear on what the next vision chapter looks like for you. And take these tiny actions and like start really making the progress the goal, like build the progress. Set these tiny kind of milestones that you can use to build up on the progress so that you get excited and build that confidence and get inspired and feel alive because you see things moving again. So these are my top 3 tips to get out of the rut and back into excitement, inspiration, and aliveness. Please feel free to screenshot this, tag me, and tell me your biggest takeaway. I'd love to hear. And make sure to tune into next week's episode. If you do want, you can listen to last week's episode where I did share my whole week and month and daily routines, which has been really fun to record as well. So if that's something that excites you, you can tap into that. I also recorded a personal life update a couple episodes ago, so you might want to tap into that if you want to know more about what I'm up to at the moment. And with that being said, I will speak to you next week. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting me. Appreciate you so much. Take care and bye-bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a blast. If you haven't given the show a 5-star review yet, I highly appreciate if you did so. This is an amazing way to help the show grow and reach more people, and it means the world to me too, as it is such valuable feedback for me. And if you found the episode valuable and learned something from it or had an incredible takeaway, I also appreciate if you share that with your friends, your community, or just share it to your stories and tag me so I can read your takeaway and send you a little thank you note. Thank you so much, and I see you next Wednesday. Bye!